in this day and age, it is not easy to human. It's not easy to be a human. The geopolitical instability, the uncertain economy, all these different things adds to the mental load a normal person is already carrying. And then at work, they are not supposed to affect them, because we are human. A good leader, and definitely a leader I would have appreciated, is somebody who could be that listening ear, have a conversation with me as a human being and not as an employee or as a staff first. Then we don't need to stop there. We can then say, perhaps you need to take a break.
Welcome to the THX podcast, or the Human Exchange, where we are here to discuss all things related to purpose, performance, and potential in a real, raw, and relevant way. Well, I look a little bit different today, right? Okay, because I'm your host, my name is Patience, and we're going to flip the script and we put Jon in the passenger seat. Okay?
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Patience, you did the opening line brilliantly, as if like you were a veteran on this show already.
Okay, thank you so much, Jon, for inviting me to be the host here today.
Well, thank you for agreeing.
Okay, yeah, I know sometimes it's difficult, right? When something belongs to you, when you have a responsibility for something, to entrust it to somebody else. So I really appreciate that, and it's a real privilege to be here today.
No, Patience, I appreciate you being here, and I think that I cannot think of anybody better than to help me host this episode. And also, thank you for lining my self-absorption to want to be a guest on my own show. So,
it's okay.
Yes,
I think you have
appreciate
a lot of great wisdom with regards to leadership, and because I have seen you in that leadership position and seen how you have led others, young people especially. So I'm very happy that we are doing this episode together. I have a question for you. I suspect that you have probably had a taste of leadership even from quite a young age.
Mm-hmm.
What defines a leader? And how did you handle that leadership even from being a young person?
To be honest, I was never really quite the leader type when I was younger. I did not get involved in a lot of extracurriculars. I did not hold any positions as president, secretary, or treasurer in all those societies and clubs. I would say that I stumbled into leadership accidentally. My first few years as a professional, I was a pastor, right? So I was leading groups of people and especially leading volunteers. So I needed to find ways to motivate them. When you lead employees or other type of teams, there are usually monetary motivations, but when you're leading volunteers, it's very different. So being in that kind of a responsibility, I had to pick up some leadership skills, which I did not realize were actually skills that you needed to pick up, learning how to lead people, learning how to communicate. So I would say that. But what do I understand about leadership is, I feel leadership it's a very nebulous saying, right? A very kind of almost out there, lack of substance kind of thing. But I believe leadership comes down to three things. First of all is intentionality. Second is influence. And thirdly is impact. So what do I mean by that? I believe leadership is the effort to be intentional in order to apply or exert influence over a situation or over people or groups of people in order to make an impact. So that's how I see it. And I also believe that while not everybody is a leader, leadership applies to everybody. Why I say that? I'm passionate about leadership because I see it is applicable in all areas of our lives. If I look at these three words, intentional, influence, impact, even if you are not a traditional leader, like you don't have a team or a company or business that you're leading, you want to have influence over your own life. You want to be successful. You want to have better relationships. That is the impact that you're looking for, right? So it starts with having that intentionality, because I've also noticed that most of the time, people don't become good leaders by accident. Similarly, you don't become successful by accident. Now, maybe you had rich parents or whatever or a rich relative that could give you inheritance, but that kind of success is not sustainable, right? It could be just one moment. But if I look at people who have built something, who have developed something, established themselves in a particular way, it all starts from having some form of intentionality. So that's kind of like my introduction.
That's very interesting. Actually, I had received some feedback before. So my brother and I, we used to work in the same company. And he was trying to tell me that, whether you like it or you don't like it, you are an influential character in this company. So if you are careless, with certain things, you will lose your credibility, right? You lose that influence. And it actually, whether for good, or whether for worse, you will have an impact.
Yes.
Right? On those around you.
Yep.
So I think that brought this awareness to me that I really have to be mindful about the intention that I have to make sure that I use my influence for good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And building on that, whether you realize it or not, or whether we realize it or not, I believe everybody has more influence over their own personal circumstance and their life more than they realize. It's about having that intentionality to whether would I now become for lack of a better word, victim to my circumstance, or will I default to my current circumstance, or am I going to change it? A simple example would be marriage. Those who be married long enough will know that it is not like what you see in the movies. It's not a walk in the park. There are challenges, there are difficulties, but instead of going, well, that's just the way it is, if I want to improve my marriage, if I want to improve my relationship with my spouse, the impact that I'm looking for, I need to start with myself. Because often what we do is we blame. Right? We would say, my spouse is like this, my spouse is like that. But yeah, that could be true, but what are steps that you are going to take in order to influence, to change the situation as much as possible? Similarly, I've made a career transition. I changed from non-profit to the commercial sector. When I first made that transition, it was difficult. And I got more rejections than I did. I had more closed doors than open doors, right? But I made a decision to go, you know what? This is the circumstance I'm facing, but there's a way to change it. And that starts with first me having that right mindset in order to overcome it. So like what you said is true. We all have influence in our life, in our offices, in our relationships. It's a matter of what kind of influence do we want to exude or show, right?
It's very interesting because, when we think about leadership, we often think about we want to lead like externally. We externalize it like leading others. But what I'm hearing from you is that actually the self-leadership component kind of needs to come first, right? When did you realize that maybe you weren't leading yourself so well, you weren't taking that ownership, and how did you start to make some shifts?
Well, I'll be honest with you, Patience, that shift happens constantly because if you want to talk about when did I first realize that, I think it was way back when I first started, being a leader. I was put in charge of a small group of people, and the group was it was okay, but it wasn't going well, right? So I had two options. I either just let things be or decide that, you know what, I've been given this assignment, I'm going to change it. And it sparked from there, right? But yet, our life are made up of moments and seasons, right? Some moments we will find ourselves in this team, other moments we'll find ourselves in other teams. Or we'll find ourselves being a parent or becoming a boss, a team leader, whatever it is. So I say that this shift constantly happens because I also see it in my own personal life. So like when I, in my becoming a parent, it's been rewarding, but there have been difficult times. And I also then have to choose what kind of parent do I want to be? Do I want to be the kind of parent that yells at my kids or just uses devices to nanny them? Or do I want to be involved with them? And that takes a lot of, I guess, self-awareness, but also then the intentionality to apply, like, hey, I want to be this kind of parent. I want to be this kind of spouse. I want to be this kind of boss or team leader. So I would say that this shift happens all the time. You may have that conviction that yes, I need to be intentional, but there is still a requirement for you to kind of like remind yourself or have somebody trusted remind you, like, hey, so like so as a parent, I lean a lot on my wife who tells me, are you sure you want to be this kind of father? Are you sure you want to be like that? You want to be remembered that way? So those are moments that remind me, like, oh, I got to go back to that intentionality.
Wow, it's such a humbling experience, right? Because especially on the home front, our family sees all of us.
Yeah.
Right? The good and the bad. And I mean, I speak for myself. I would say that it's very often that we are the most relaxed and most ourselves, which often is not the very nice side of ourselves that we show to our family. And to be able to take feedback from your family, is to accept, yeah, I am like that.
Yeah.
Right? And also having the willingness to, okay, I understand I am like this. Do I want to shift it now?
Yeah.
Right. How do you find the strength within you to confront and also make the change? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on its head. Feedback. As I mature as a leader, before I used to think that being a leader means you got to have it all together, means you got to be the best in everything. So you got to put yourself into a position of strength where you are stronger than everybody, therefore you are qualified as a leader. But that's not what leadership is about, right? So I like this saying where it goes that leadership is not about being the best among everyone, but it's bringing the best out of everyone.
Wow.
And that simple saying really shifted my perspective. And how do we do that? Is via feedback. Being open to feedback when as much as we are experienced, as much as we know how to do something or we've been very seasoned in doing different things, whatever it is, being open to feedback is always important, right? And it also helps us gauge. So this is what I do with feedback. I don't necessarily react to feedback all the time. So for example, if I have done a particular training and if I get negative feedback, I take note of it.
Yeah.
And I see where does that feedback, what kind of category it fits into, whether it's the activity or that particular section or maybe it's my delivery in a certain way, whatever it is, right? And then if I get more and more feedback in those areas, similarly, then I know, hey, there's something that I need to change. We talk about negative feedback. Same with relationships, right? If my spouse tells me, you always do this, you always do that, then it's up to me now to say, okay, I think there's something there. Let me see whether I should work on it and how I can work on it. Now, where do I get the strength to do that? I think it's about recognizing that none of us have arrived. The humility. I know it's such a cliche thing, but really the only way to future-proof yourself is to always be learning. And the way to do that is to remain humble, to have the innate curiosity on what makes things work and how to make things better. So I think that is about humility. Recognizing that no matter how great you are, how good you are, there is still something that you can learn. And I like to do that, right? I like to look at myself. I like to do some reflection. I like to always ask, how can I better, improve? How can I better refine? And that takes a lot of humility. And I'll say this one more thing, right? I think humility also is, I think you know me long enough. I love quotes and sayings, right? I like this saying about humility where it goes like this. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less.
Yeah.
And I think that's what true leadership is about. It's not always about you. It's about how do I create the best outcome for those around me, even if it's not me who gets all the credit or the spotlight.
Yeah, I think as a therapist myself, I'm always trying to help my clients to see, look, there's a difference between your value as a human being and the behavior that you may display, the attitudes that you may have. And just because this one needs work, it doesn't increase or decrease your value. And I think this is something that has helped me to make sure that my soul is not completely crushed when I receive feedback. You know, like, I mean, that's helpful for me.
Yep.
What do you think we've got wrong about leadership?
Oh, big question. Few things. I think first is that leadership is about instructing people or just about instructing people.
Yeah.
So I've seen in working with teams and all that, many first time or new managers, they sometimes fall into this trap. I just need to tell my team what to do and then they will just have to do it. Now, it could not be any fault of their own. It could be that's because they have been used to that kind of leadership. So it's not just about instruction. I would think it's also about inspiration. Because if you think about getting influence, there are two ways you can get influence. Yes, instruction, intimidation is one way.
Yeah.
But a better way, more sustainable way is inspiration. Can I be an individual that is inspiring, that when I give instructions to people, they would want to follow?
Yeah.
Versus, yes, I can be intimidating, I can threaten, people will follow. But what kind of leader do you want to be and how far will that kind of leadership go would depend, right? So that's one thing. I think the other thing is that we tend to either sway from one end to the other, where one, we think that leadership is just this, again, abstract thing that is like really out there. It's about what people talk about in seminars, books, but it doesn't have any real value. So when we may not explicitly say that, but how that is reflected in our daily lives is that people don't recognize that leadership requires you to hone certain skills. Even things like communication, giving feedback, setting goals, targets. These are all skill sets which many people kind of miss. Of course, some companies recognize this, right? That's why they have programs to upskill managers. Because it's very different when you are an individual contributor and then going into a team leader. As an individual contributor, you are responsible for delivering the work that is entrusted to you. But as a team leader, you need to deliver the same results multiplied but via people. Yeah. And that requires a different sets of skills. So that's people not recognizing that, and then also I think I would say these two things. I'll start with these two things. Otherwise, I love talking about leadership. I can just go on and on and on and on. So I'll start with this too.
Yeah. So what I heard was, number one, it's often our misconception or the myth is that I tell and you do, right? And the other is that, look, leadership is not something you're just born with. It's actually a skill set that you need to hone. And so because it's a skill that you need to practice and to hone, therefore it is understandable that you may not be good at it at the beginning. Yeah, and requires a lot of intention to actually practice. And probably companies, they need to actually put the resources in place to ensure that you're actually building leaders. You're helping to develop them and not just, well, since I promoted you, you should go and figure it out by yourself.
Correct. And as you were saying that, I think the third thing came back to my memory. I think one misconception is that only loud and charismatic people can be good leaders. Now, being a bit more outgoing can give you a certain advantage. Maybe it help you pick up certain skills easier. Just like how if you're a bit more musically inclined, it'll be easier for you to pick up a new musical instrument versus a regular person, right? But it does not mean that if you are charismatic or outgoing, you will definitely be a good leader. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned early on. So I used to think that as long as you are able to deliver a compelling speech, you can, say the right things, you can rile people up, you can then therefore mobilize them and do stuff. But no, there's more to that. And I think that also is a point of comfort to people who maybe don't consider themselves that charismatic or outgoing. It does not mean that introverted people can't be good leaders. In fact, it's the opposite. Sometimes introverts make the best leaders because they are not so motivated or driven to put themselves out there. So they create more room to listen, to hear, to study the situation before acting.
Can you give an example of somebody that you've encountered in the workplace that you felt like, wow, they're such a good listener, and that you observed that the impact that had on the people around them?
Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely worked with people. The most recent one would be one superior of mine, where she is not the out there kind of like leader. She prefers to actually be behind the scenes. But she had that calm and collected and analytical nature, and I really liked it because I'm a man of action. So the minute something comes up, I want to act on it. I want to come up with a plan, a structure, let's attack it.
Yeah.
But she's the type that would take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and then, put all the pieces together and see what's the best course of action. So I've really learned, even though it's not new, but I've drawn from that kind of presence from her. That's why they're saying more is caught than taught. It's true, right? When you are able to be around these kind of leaders, it also is a good reminder for me. I think we need both types of leaders. We need the cool, calm, analytical type. We also need the people who are biased for action. So it's not about one or the other, like which is the right way. That's probably another myth or so. There is no one right style of leadership or one only style of leadership. It really depends on a myriad of factors, right? The situation you're in, the people you're dealing with, and even where you are at as a person. Yeah, I think that's what I would say.
It's very interesting also that you say that, because while I agree with you that there are different kinds of leaders, and every organization, every team probably needs those different kinds of leaders, there's something similar about them all. That's what makes them good leaders, right? What do you think that is?
It is better for leaders to be clear than clever. That's the important thing. So even if you are the type that loves to give like the inspirational speech or team talk or huddle, or you are just like hey, this is what we need to do, and this is why we're going to do, why we need to do it. It's about being clear, having that clarity and consistency. So I think those two things are very important, that people know what they need to be done, what needs to be done, and what's expected of them. Secondly, people are not leaving to guess what's next. I think some of the leaders or more challenging leaders that I've worked with are people who really, you don't know what's going to come up next. One day you could be given this directive, and then the next minute, either a new directive is given or a completely different one, and where people feel like they're pulled in all kinds of different directions. That's where it's disorientating for people. And I think that's where the disengagement can come. So if you were to ask me what is the similarities or something that applies across, is these two things: be clear and be consistent. And that starts with also, like you mentioned earlier, self-leadership. Are you clear on what you need to achieve? And do you know what drives you, your values as a person, as a leader?
It's very interesting again, because I don't know why, as you were saying these things, I just had the image of a parent. And what are some of the most valuable things that you can help your child with is to be super clear about your expectation, the instructions, why you are doing certain things, and also the consistency, right?
Yeah,
your message
absolutely.
is always the same. Like, I understand it, you don't feel good about having to do this, but the message is always the same, and you're not going to change your mind just because the feelings go up and down, the circumstances change, right? I feel that in the workplace, oftentimes people are looking for the leaders to be that as well. Are you reliable? Is your message always the same? Is our purpose, our direction, are we still heading in the same direction, right? Because yes, maybe we have new product, maybe we will decide to open a new division, but is our purpose and our direction the same? And that is where the consistency, I think, can come in.
Yeah. It's you pick up a very practical example, a very real one. There are certain instances where we don't have control over the consistency. Like, for example, if a business is not doing well and they need to pivot, they need to change, or if the nature of the industry they're in requires them to be very agile, so they cannot stick to a singular way of working, they need to adapt and all the time. But what a leader can be consistent with is how they deliver the message and how they treat the team. That's the thing. So I have been in environments where it's highly stressful, because like certain times teams go through different seasons, right? There could be seasons where you are really under the pump. Now, during those times, can I be consistent? Can I still be through the way I give feedback, the way I motivate my team? So it's not like, extreme example, good times, I will use the inspiration way. I would give a good TED talk.
Yeah.
But bad times, I default to yelling, scolding, threatening. If you don't do this, you get out. You don't do this, you get out. So that's also a form of consistency. Can you be the same type of leader in all types of seasons and all types of situations?
I don't know whether this is going a little bit off topic, but I felt like, because we are talking about these two aspects, right, about consistency and also clarity, to some degree, I feel this is helping to create psychological safety, right, for the teams that you are working with. How do you help teams to feel safe and also call them to account?
Good question. I think it's about, first and foremost, not punishing people for saying or responding in a way that you do not like or did not expect. For example, if there is a new change of direction, which happens a lot if you're in middle management, right? The top management wants something done, and now you got no choice but to deliver that message to the team. Now the team may become disgruntled. They may even like complain or even whine about it. I believe in giving people that space to express, and not like, hey, don't complain. It's understanding, hey, this is frustrating. So I usually try to start with an empathetic approach. Like, I get it. I know it's so frustrating. I know, so giving them that space to express that. Another example would be if people come up with ideas that you may think are maybe completely like out of whack, like that's a terrible idea, but at least you give them the avenue to share it.
Yeah.
Or even if they give you feedback that maybe you feel like it's not warranted or it's unfair, but it's giving them the space to express. Yeah. Holding them to accountability is then easier when you build that trust. So for example, if there's a big change and people are complaining, I won't tell everybody, okay, be quiet, don't complain. This is what management decided. I will let them speak up, and then I would go, okay, I understand that it is frustrating, it is difficult. So how can we now adapt to this? What can we do? What are things that we can change? What is within our control that we can act on? So I'll push them. Emotions are a tricky thing, right? But the trick in dealing with this tricky thing is to not actually attack the emotions, is to let the emotions come out, not try to control or stifle, let it come out. And once it has come out, then put them onto the objective. It's like when my kids, my kids, they hate showering for whatever reason. And they also sometimes, dislike brushing their teeth. Rather than, getting them, I found a better way of encouraging them to do that is tell them lead them to the outcomes. Like, hey, if we get ourselves showered, you can watch TV, you can get on with your homework. My daughter loves her homework. Definitely not my trait. She must have got it from her mom. Yeah, she loves doing her homework. If you get this shower out of the way, then you can have more time to do your homework. It will not be so rushed. So leading them back to the outcome. And that's where I think the clarity comes. The leader is supposed to lead people back to, hey, what's really our objective there?
One of my former employers, the culture over there was, before a decision has been made, we are allowed to disagree, no problem. But once the decision has been made, and if you disagree or you have some reservations, we still 100% everybody commit to whatever the decision was, as if it was your decision, know. So I think that can help, to put aside your own personal feelings or agenda for the sake of doing something that would benefit the whole.
Hi everyone, before we continue with our conversation, I want to take this moment to ask a favor from you. If you have been finding the content and direction of THX to be valuable, can you do me this one favor and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as the Spotify platform? This will give me an indication or an idea of how helpful or how valuable what we've been doing here at THX would be to you. And if you want to go even a step further, I want to invite you to subscribe to our Substack at thehumanexchange.substack.com. It's a mailing list, and the intention that I have behind that is to give you further insights to some of the topics that we've been talking about, as well as build a community that will be interested in exploring the themes of performance, purpose, as well as potential in both our professional and personal lives. Thanks everybody, and now back to the episode.
I'm sure in your work experience, you've seen and felt the pressure to always deliver, to always keep driving. There's always this pursuit of more, right? Do you think we've got it wrong?
In the pursuit of more?
Yeah.
It isn't just a leadership question. It's more like it's almost like an existential question, isn't it? Like, is there a need for more, and will there ever be enough? But to bring it back down to reality, I think I can understand and appreciate that the general principle is this, right? When it comes to businesses and organizations, you have to keep growing, because if you plateau, you will eventually reach a decline. And I think the best entrepreneurs, CEOs, leaders, shareholders recognize this. Therefore, there is that kind of pressure to always push. But I think sometimes that message is lost in translation, because there's this saying that vision leaks. What is said at the top, by the time it gets to the bottom, can be so distilled down that it loses the essence and the true heart behind it. So that's where communication is one of the cornerstones of leadership, right? Like, because communication is not just sending messages and receiving messages. It's how are you able to convey the true meaning of something, or interpret the meaning of something and then reinterpret it or retranslate it that the other person is able to receive. So in short, is there a drive for more? Unfortunately, the way the world is going is, there will be always a need for more, because if you talk about businesses, things are getting more and more volatile. So companies are doing a lot, need to survive. Yeah. If you even talk about just the layperson like you and I, we can see that we are faced with all kinds of different pressures, right? Inflation, different like health challenges, and all these things that we face as a society, whether it's in our personal or professional lives. Yeah. I can understand why there is a need for more. It's almost like we are caught in this loop or this carousel, this wheel that we can't get off. Yeah. And it is difficult. But having said that, I think there is a meaningful way to tackle all of it without. So I don't think performance and whatever you call it, performance and purpose or performance and presence need to contradict or be at odds with one another. I believe they can be in synergy. Same with, I don't think profit needs to come at the expense of people, or at the same way prioritize people that you lose profit. There is a way that we can bring both into harmony and synergy, but then there are different implications to it.
who do you see is doing this quite well, and what do you think are the key things that you've taken from their practice? Those who are kind of balancing this act of presence and performance quite well.
If I look at companies, it seems like more and more understanding your niche or recognizing what is your niche seems to be a thing. I mean, this cuts across even if it comes to personal branding, right? Companies who recognize what they are for, who they are, and what kind of value they bring, and they stay on that, tend to be more sustainable over the long run. So an example would be, I have a keen interest in consulting and consulting companies. You can see now the trend is that companies that have niches, whether it's by industry or expertise, they're doing a lot better than people who are generalists. And that way it affects the people working in those organizations as well, because they know that, okay, this is our goal, this is what we're focusing on. We will do our best to do this. That's at a company level. I think when it comes to an individual level, personal branding is a one thing. So I'm all for discovery. I think we sometimes need to go on the path less trodden so that we can discover. But once we've discovered what am I passionate about, who I am, what do I value in this season or in this entire existence of mine, I think that helps us then now narrow or focus our efforts into areas that matter. But there are trade-offs, right? So if I were to look at, from a company perspective, it's like, okay, if you want to diversify into new services or into new products, it could mean that you may lose some competitive edge in your core offerings. It could, right? Or it may not be. It may be something separate altogether if you have the means to do so. And that's fine, right? Or it could be that what you used to be your core is no longer competitive, or for whatever reason, that's not what you want to do anymore, and you shift. But there's a clarity there. And I think for individuals, it's seasonal, depending, right? For some of us, if this generalization, right? So for younger people, maybe like, hey, I want to focus on growth, personal development, right? I want to get money, I want to build my career. But as you go into becoming a parent, or you get married, your priorities may shift. Or if you see your parents aging and you feel like you want to spend more time with them, you may take a pay cut to go into a less demanding job or whatever, right? So it's really having that clarity, understanding, okay, what do I want to focus on? And that's where I'm going to put my energy into. And I'll be honest, that's my biggest struggle. My biggest problem is not finding things to do. It's finding what are the right things to focus on. Because if I'm not careful, I'm the type that I can overextend myself and just get involved in a whole bunch of different things. But sometimes saying no is also quite... It's like saying no to the good things so you can say yes to the better and more important, the best things. Yes. I read this book called Essentialism, and also another book, Boundaries, which is like required reading for everybody, in my opinion. It's actually, you have to be kind of merciless in a way to say no to all the things that are going to detract you from the one thing that you want to say yes to. Oh yeah, absolutely. We are living in a world where we are bombarded with multiple options, and that's not a good thing. I think we don't realize this enough, that because so I'm a millennial, right? I'm 38 years old this year, so I've lived on both sides of the fence, before the internet and post the internet. I remember a time before the internet where you didn't have that many options, and it was not a terrible thing. You turn on the television, you only have 3 or 4 channels you can watch from. And if you want a certain program, like cartoons, you only have a certain time slot that you have. But we got by with it. So, and that was fine. But now everything's on demand. You can choose what channel you want to watch. You can choose what program you want to watch. You can choose how long you want to watch it for. Fast forward, rewind, skip to this certain part. So we are paralyzed with so many options.
Choices.
That's where you mentioned that clarity is so important. It's the same with companies. I've been in companies, I've worked with teams where it's not, their problem is not that they don't know what to do in a way, but it's that they don't know where to focus on because they just got too many competing priorities, and it's really like finding and honing in and looking at what we can focus on. And I think it's, some people hear that and they feel it's very limiting, but to me I'm a realist, okay? So if I were to look at both organizations and individuals, resources are limited. Your time, your energy, your money is all limited.
Yeah.
So isn't it more strategic to do like a deep dive in certain areas rather than scratching everything across multiple areas on the surface?
Yeah.
That's my opinion. So
Yeah. Now, I'll share the image with you. It's like basically if this is you and all your energy is going out, you can travel a very short distance only. But actually, if you focus all your energy on one direction, you can go so far.
Yes.
You know?
So someone shared this illustration with me before. It's like that garden hose. You know, a garden hose, if you twist it one way and the stream
like a
is
shower.
widespread, you can only cover a huge area of grass. But if you twist it and it becomes high pressure in one direction, you can shoot
so
a lot
far.
further. And there's also this saying, right, that the river does not cut through the rock by its power, but by its sheer persistence.
Wow.
So it's really about finding that direction and
Yeah.
going there.
Have you experienced certain moments in leadership that really took a toll on you, nearly broke you?
Yeah, I think one of the things about being in leadership for a long time, or doing anything for a long time for that matter, it can be inextricably tied to your identity and your self-worth, sense of self-worth. So I have seen leaders who, in all honesty, should have let go a lot earlier than they should have, but they hang on. And that has been the same for me as well. I remember it was probably during COVID, or rather the tail end of COVID, where I was leading that particular few initiatives, few teams for a long time already. But towards the end of my tenure there, I was actually losing vision. I was just doing things for the sake of doing things. I was keeping things going, but I was not trying to take things further or bring the people further. I was just like, so it's almost like instead of focusing on thriving, I was just looking to survive. Instead of building, I just wanted to cope. And I think when you have reached a point where you no longer see the purpose behind what you're doing, you don't even see the value in the people that you are leading, I think those are moments where you really need to ask yourselves, do I need to take a step back from leadership, or do I need to change, go to do a different thing? Because we all have, we're all finite, right? And I believe all of us have a particular season in a particular place. So I think that was the last time that happened to me, where there was already a misalignment in terms of what is happening with me internally and the responsibilities that were around me externally. And I had to really, remove myself from the situation. At a point of time, I did not remove myself out of revelation or out of conviction. I actually removed myself out of frustration. But if looking back and now being able to kind of reflect more on the situation, I realized that was what was happening. I was losing vision. I was no longer able to see the value in what I was doing, and even in the people that I was leading. And those were the two clear indicators. If I were to put it in simple terms, if you cannot be positive as a leader, if all you're doing is being negative, and you cannot find it within you to just even come out with a little bit of positivity, that could be a sign that maybe it's time you pause and reflect and see what you should do next.
Wow. Thanks for spelling it out so clearly. It sounds definitely like you were some kind of burnt out, right? Emotionally exhausted, and probably even the language, everything that was coming out of your mouth, was just frustration, anger, annoyance, irritation, $100 reaction to $2 problems, kind of thing, right?
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, because in that situation, you are still exerting influence, but it's not the positive kind of influence, right? And you are still creating impact, but it's not the kind of impact that you should be bringing as a leader.
Did somebody point it out to you, or did you kind of noticed it yourself?
No, it was. So this is also the other thing, right? In organizations, often the priority is to keep the machine going. To keep the wheels spinning. So it is unfortunate. It's a reality, and it's very unfortunate. Many leaders or management, top leadership, whatever, don't actually take the time to evaluate both the capability and the capacity of their current leaders, because the priority is just keep things going, right? So for my situation, I had to really take a step out, took a break for a while, but then I realized that I still had an interest to lead. I still had an interest to contribute and to, bring about positive change and impact. So that's where I then had to take stock of where I was, where I came from, and then decide how am I going to move forward.
So what do you think you needed in that moment? Like if there was a good leader, right, who kind of noticed, hey, I think something's up with Jon. What do you think would have helped you? What do you wish for?
I think it would be helpful if leaders become a bit more. It's an ongoing conversation, isn't it? But I think we need maybe a bit more emotional intelligence amongst leaders, where it's not about not prioritizing the outcome, but it's about recognizing where is a human element in the outcomes that we want to drive. Because human beings are extremely complex, and we have to recognize also that in this day and age, it is not easy to human. It's not easy to be a human because of all the things I mentioned before, right? The geopolitical instability, the uncertain economy, all these different things adds to the mental load that a normal person is already carrying. And then at work, these things, though they're not supposed to affect them, do affect them because we are human. We as much as we try to compartmentalize and segmentize, we can't, right? So I think a good leader, and definitely a leader I would have appreciated, is somebody who could, again, be that listening ear, help me evaluate where I am, help me have a conversation with me as a human being and not as an employee or as a staff first. As a human being, where are you at? Okay. But then we don't need to stop there. We can then say, perhaps you need to take a break. And can I afford you a break? If I can't afford you a break, are you willing to get some help so that you can continue delivering?
Right.
Or do you want to then reconsider, maybe this is no longer something that is fit for you in this season? I think that's another skill or another attitude that leaders should have. Don't hold on to people as if like they're your possessions. As much as we love to keep all our good people or best people with us all the time, but we must recognize that people are dynamic. And people change, people grow, people evolve, businesses change, people evolve. So there will become a time where people will need to move on, and that's just the way things are. I know it's not easy because if you're a committed leader, you will invest a lot of time, energy, and even emotions into people. But then we must be able to have that clarity to go, hey, you are a person that I've invested in because I was interested in you to grow.
Yeah.
And your growth contributed to my company or to my team. But your growth is your growth,
Yeah.
and my role as a leader is to help you grow so the team grows. And if you move on, I'll just find another person that I can grow.
Yeah.
I think if we took that, if more and more leaders took that kind of mindset, then, we will create a healthy pipeline of talent that can go all over the place.
I think that's so true. I think when you really start to care about the individual and not stay so beholden that they need to always be by your side, but actually you want to see them grow into the best potential that they have, whether that's in your organization or not. That is true love. I think, that you really see that this is the best option for their growth and it may not be with me.
Yeah,
and
and sometimes that kind of bias, it can also be the hindrance to potential growth in the team.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, I'm going to use this example because it's just something that I read today. But so I shamefully want to confess that I still trying to support Manchester United, even though they are an incredibly crap team at the moment. But what they have been doing for the past couple of years is they've been trying to they've had some good players that they have tried to hold on to because they were good players. But this article was saying one of the best player right now in the team is this guy called Bruno Fernandes. And this article was basically saying that this guy does not suit the strategy that the manager is trying to build for the team. So I use that example to say that sometimes good is the enemy of great.
Yeah.
An individual may be incredibly talented and exceptional, but they could also be the obstacle for your team to go to the next level. Because what as human beings, what do? We want to minimize as much disruption and ambiguity.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you got something important, you will keep giving it to this guy who is the best guy or gal, who is the best performer.
The rock star lah.
So more and more will be given to this person, but less and less will be given to others. And then the other team doesn't grow.
Yeah.
And then we look at our teams and we go, how come this guy's growing, but everybody else is not? But we don't realize that is our own doing. We are trusting this person more and more, but we're not empowering the rest. And it's understandable because as a leader, we want to ensure that whatever that we do has the best outcome. But sometimes that is not the most sustainable step, and that requires a lot of, I think, a lot of awareness and also willingness to invest, because now coaching is the thing, right? Coaching is the in thing. I think the reason why people are slow to adopt coaching into their management practices is because coaching is costly.
Yeah.
But because example would be like this: if I have a task, the easiest way to get it done is I do it myself. So if I know. The second easiest way is I give it to somebody who knows how to do it.
Yeah.
But if I were to coach somebody on how to pick it up, it will take time, right? And it will take an effort. But we don't realize that is actually the right way to go, because I know how to do it, you know how to do it, but what happens when both of us are not around? Or do both of us want to continue be doing just that one thing and not grow? So I think we need to take a more long-term view also when it comes to leadership development and people development. Yeah.
It's basically that as you rise through the ranks, you realize that there are some problems that are $100 problems, and you actually need to be handling $10,000 problems and delegating the $100 problems to other people already. But you can't do that until you've enabled the person who's handling $10 problems to handle the $100 problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you need to put that investment in.
Yeah. It's an illustration of how, in order for an arrow to go as far as it could, you need to pull the string back. You need to go backwards before you can go forwards. So sometimes coaching can feel like that. Or investing into people development can feel like that. I'm going backwards. I'm not growing as fast as I could be. But we don't realize that is only the short-term pain when there is a much longer-term gain. And I think that's why a lot of companies sometimes remain stuck, because they're not willing to pay that short-term pain. They're not willing to invest in either better talent or better talent development. So they're stuck in that space there because you need that effort. I see a lot of companies, this is best practices, right? Those companies that take time to do either quarterly or annual reviews, where they plan and they set things out. This is how we want to move forward and everything. Those companies tend to do better in the longer run versus companies who are very tactical. That means every couple of every time something comes up, we just do that. We just do this. We just do that. Those are the companies that kind of like
they're reactive,
yes, reactive. They stay stuck. Whereas companies that carve out time to whether it's once, twice, or more than or 3-4 times a year, to actually there are few days to really evaluate. Okay, where are we? What are we going to do next? Because that in the moment feels like we're not doing anything. We're having meetings. But once you get everybody in those spaces, and if you can come up with clear objectives, mind you, not just come together for the sake of coming together, but if the outcome of those meetings is that we produce clear objectives and goals, the teams will be a lot sharper and successful in executing what's next.
Just to play, I don't know if it's playing devil's advocate, but it's a hot take maybe. Do you think sometimes there are managers or leaders, they're not empowering their downline because actually they're afraid of getting replaced? Possible. I think that's where maybe they have either subconsciously or consciously placed a cap on themselves. Because think about it, if you are worried about your downliners taking your place, why? It could mean that maybe you don't have anywhere to go up to. And if you don't have anywhere to go up to, what is causing that? Is it because you yourself have no desire to go up? Which is possible. I know some people where they feel like, you know what, I don't want to have too many responsibilities. I don't want to climb up too high the hierarchy because that saves me all the headache. Fair, right? But there could also be people who maybe feel like, you know what, this is my lot in life. This is where I am supposed to be. I don't want to grow any higher, or I can't grow any higher. That is the mindset thing, and that's the intentionality thing. Are you going to believe that you can grow, and you're going to take the right steps to grow? So that's entirely possible. Like, ask yourself, do I want to go upwards? Can I go upwards? And it could be a real practical thing by just having a discussion with succession planning shouldn't be a HR thing. HR should be facilitating this, but succession planning is every leader's duty. There's this saying that goes that true leaders don't produce followers, they produce more leaders. So if you can actually raise a team that replaces you or renders you redundant, it speaks volumes to your achievement and your credibility as a leader, and we should not fear it. So it comes back to, what do we understand about leadership? If we feel that leadership is about controlling people, keeping them in their place so that they can do our thing or do things for us, that's not leadership. I was listening to this podcast a couple of days ago. This guy said it this way: leadership should not be leadership is a privilege, but it's not to serve our own privileges, something like that. What do you think now in the age of AI? I can totally understand there are some people who are fearful for themselves, their position, their jobs. And even the CEO of Fiverr has sent out a memo to everybody to say like, you better get with the program because, AI is coming after your job. Hell, it's coming after my job. Right? What do you think are things that are future critical for leaders? How can we future-proof ourselves? Right? Seeing as how things are they are changing already.
I think it's about having, it comes back to what I mentioned before, having that humility and curiosity. Because you think about it, right? Humility and curiosity are, if you put those two together, those are the core components of what empathy is about. Because what is empathy? So, okay, to answer your question, what are some future critical traits a leader can have, right? Or future-proof things? I think a leader that has empathy. Now, empathy to me is not just a social virtue. It can actually be a business driver as well. Because what is empathy? Empathy is, sympathy is I feel for you. Empathy is I can feel as you. So companies that understand their customers well have great empathy. Even though they can do unconventional things. A simple example would be, before, when Apple gained prominence, they started opening retail stores, big retail spaces. But the trend was that at a time where Dell and Acer and all these other players, they were doing online stores. So you go online, you order a device and it gets sent to your house. So Apple flipped the script. They opened physical stores, which didn't make sense because they had high overheads. And they allowed customers to play with their products, which also doesn't make sense because it's like, no, they haven't paid for it. Why let them touch it? But look at where they are now compared to the other companies, because they understood that this is what their customers want. So having that empathy. So what's empathy? And how does it apply to the leader? Number one, humility, recognizing that I am not the be-all and end-all. I don't know everything. I still have room to learn. And then next is the curiosity. Be genuinely curious. What makes something work? Pick up new skills. The saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks is true to a certain extent, but not in the way that we think. Because as we get older, sometimes we can get more used to the way things are done. We get more comfortable. But it's intentionally putting ourselves in that place of discomfort, not for discomfort's sake, but just for growth, to learn. Okay, what makes this thing tick? What makes this thing work? And when we translate that into leadership, it's about asking why. Why is this person like that? So I like to take an empathetic approach, especially when there are problematic people in teams. There must be a reason. First of all, I need to be humble. Let me put aside my assumptions why this person is like that, though they could be true. But let me put it aside first. Let me be humble enough to put my assumptions aside. Let me be genuinely curious. Why is this person like that? Why do these things matter? Whatever they're upset about or whatever they're refusing to do, why does it matter to them? And then when I get that kind of insight, I will know how to respond. So I think when leaders have that kind of perspective and that kind of mindset, they can be future ready. I won't go into like what is the framework on how to use AI, blah, 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 blah. Okay, there are a lot of resources out there. But I think more and more as the world goes into more automation and digitalization and artificialness, the ability to connect to our fellow human being, understand them, and bring them on a journey is what would be critical for leaders in this AI age.
I think the reminder that I'm hearing from you is actually as the world becomes more reliant on technology, is actually for us to lean more into our humanity. More and more so. The more digital outsourcing we want to do, the more we actually need to actually focus on our ability for human connection. Right? And that's what's going to give us the unfair advantage, so to speak.
And So I like to also be very practical, right? At the risk of somebody accusing me of being abstract and nebulous, right? It comes down to things like critical thinking and strategic mindset, which are big buzzwords, but really what it is you know what is the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind. You're able to work backwards.
Yeah.
And along the way, you can map out every step of the process and hone in on what are some of the issues and see how it sits in the bigger picture. That's what strategic thinking is about. Being able to remove yourself from one small part of it, look at the big picture, but then hone in on, see where the small parts may connect, and then hone in on that. I think if leaders can develop that kind of mindset, then I think you're good, you're safe.
Yeah, I cannot deny I am a bit concerned for the next generation because I see this component is they're starting to lose that because they've outsourced so much of their thinking to AI. They don't know how to think critically for themselves, how to problem solve, how do I reverse engineer things. They're so reliant on the technology that, what's the benefit of writing a book? It's not that you produced a book, but actually it's the change that happened within you and in your mind as you were writing that book.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that out and I'm glad you used writing as an example. So I write quite a fair bit. And when AI came out, it was like, wow, I loved it because I could just, put unrefined thoughts and it would just structure it for me. But then came a problem. More and more as I do that, I realized two things. One, this thing is sounding less and less like me. And secondly, I am starting to think less and less as well. And the thing is, because when you're writing or when you're creating something or when you're problem solving, the frustrating part is when you hit a roadblock and you need effort.
Yeah.
So whether you got that creative block or whether you have a problem that you can't overcome, then you get frustrated. But that's the thing. It is in those moments of frustration where true growth and innovation can happen.
Yeah.
But if you remove that frustration from the human being, then it will kind of like you remove the ability to or the opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
It's as simple as this, right? If you want to grow muscles, your muscles gotta face resistance. That's why you go to the gym.
Yeah.
And I think I read somewhere, I forgot exactly what the terminology is, but something to do with this. They had this like world study on conscientiousness and all these different things.
Ocean?
No, it's like I can't quite remember what it is, but it's basically studying like what are some of the top issues that is facing the world right now. Okay. So in terms of human beings,
right.
So there is one component which I can't recall now at the top of my mind. I won't articulate as well, but it's basically this, that the fact that people struggle less now, especially when it comes to thinking and problem solving, is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Because it will mean that people become more and more complacent, and people less and less innovation and creativity will be birthed out of that. So have
you heard of Dr. Becky?
No.
She's a parenting expert, and she talks about the importance of resilience, right? Building resilience in our kids. So oftentimes we think about the outcome of resilience, but actually when you are learning to become resilient, it oftentimes feels like frustration.
Oh yeah.
Because it is the gap between knowing and not knowing, right? So in actually how resilient you are is how long you can stay in this learning space. How long can you hold the tension of frustration before you actually come to a place of knowing? So I think this is the aspect that we need to continue to cultivate in our young people. Otherwise, it's like you said, they will falter and we won't have any really good innovations, or we will have people who burn out too quickly.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing the example, because you gave me a lot more clarity what I was trying to say. That's similar, right? So this study or this stat was directly related to that in a way that, yes, to get resilience, you must know what frustration is, and you must know how to overcome that frustration. And you must be able to pay attention and stay focused.
Yeah.
Because resilience is not the absence of obstacles. It is actually the overcoming of it.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing now. AI makes our life easier, but easier does not necessarily mean better.
Yeah.
So I think leaders also need to, and the next generation need to recognize this, is that AI is supposed to be a tool that helps you get better, not a tool that makes your life easier.
Wow.
You know?
Say that again. AI is supposed to be a tool that helps you to
Helps you get better.
Helps you get better, not make your life
easier. Not necessarily make your life easier. You know?
Yeah.
So with AI, going back to your illustration just now, if you are used to solving $10 or $100 problems, with AI, you really should be now looking to solve $1,000 or $10,000 problems.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that, then you're using AI correctly. But if you're not, if you're using AI to just make your $10 problems go away or faster, and you leave it as that, then I would say there's some kind of red flag over there. Yeah.
We talked quite a lot already today, Jon, about, different aspects of leadership, from mindset to attitudes, and kind of having different measures as well. But to make it a bit more tangible for people, what do you think are ways that we can help leaders? What was the question? How can we help leaders to measure success differently, maybe beyond looking at just KPIs?
I think all of us should at some point think about the kind of legacy that we want to leave behind. Now, legacy sounds like a word for old people, right? But legacy is really just the impression that you, if we've established the fact that, number one, we are dynamic, constantly on the move. We can be in this company today, but in the next company we could be somewhere else. Even when it comes to our relationships, we could be in touch with this person for a while, but then, later we may form other friendships or whatever that may take priority and precedence. I've kind of accepted that fact that life is transient and people move, people come and go. So when I think about legacy, the word for me is impression. How can I leave a place or a person better than when I first found them? I think that's an important question to ask. And how that question will be answered is not always in the grand or big things that we do, but it's in the small things, in the little things that add up to the bigger scheme of things. An example would be, if I was a team leader for a team for only a year, how did I treat this team? How did I encourage them? How did I give them feedback? How did I manage them? How did I coach them? Or did I just, take out the team and just do the job? Because that matters. If I only met up with a friend once every couple of months, but each time I meet up with them, how am I going to approach that meetup? Am I going to sit there and be disinterested and go, okay, whatever, just a meetup, play with my phone? No, but if I'm there, I commit to to the meeting. I'm curious. I'm interested in that person. I think these little things add up to ultimately the kind of legacy, the kind of leader that we want to be. Of course, the delivering on the KPIs and the targets goes without saying.
Yeah.
But you don't want to deliver those things at the expense of leaving a good legacy. You don't want to be known as somebody, he got a job done, but he was a real jerk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what you want, sure, because I'm a big proponent of, you are free to choose and then you just bear whatever consequences that you choose. But I believe in order for us to build a better future, a more human future, right, we should leave a good legacy, the impressions that we create. And it comes back down to this simple, not simple, but not simplistic concept of just mindfulness, being present. If I'm here and this is my assignment.
Yeah.
I'm going to be present here. I'm going to do this. If I'm here and this is my interaction and this is my meeting,
Yeah.
I'm going to be involved in this as much as possible. If I'm with my kids, I want to be with my kids. I don't want to be thinking about work. If I'm with my spouse, I want to be with my spouse. I don't just want to thinking about other things. So that's my encouragement.
Yeah. Wow, it really sounds to me. I mean, it sounds a bit cliche, but being a leader is not just what you do, but actually is who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm reminded of this quote. I think it's Maya Angelou. She says, people forget what you say, they'll forget what you do, but they'll never forget the way that you made them feel.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, based on all that we've shared today, you have the power as a leader, whether with an official title or unofficial title, you have the power to decide how you want to help somebody else to feel in your presence, right? So what kind of leader do you want to be?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Jon. It's been a great conversation.
Oh, thank you for hosting this conversation.
How does it feel to be in the passenger seat?
Good. Although I do feel like I do have this feeling that I have this tendency of like, hey, give me back the steering a little bit. But it was good. Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to help me host this episode.
That's great. I'm sure many people are going to benefit from our conversation today.
Wonderful.
So thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you've resonated with this message. If you like it, you want to follow along, please follow us on THX, the Human Exchange, on YouTube, Spotify. Like, subscribe, send us a comment. You love it, send us a comment. You didn't like it, also send us a comment. We'd love to hear from you.